So, Ray Norton, take it away.
Thank you very much, Matt. Ladies and gentlemen and kids, close your eyes for just a moment, please. I'd like to open up a giant chamber of imagination, taking us back over 70 years. Imagine with me, if you will, it's December 7th of 1941. Europe is conquered by the blitzkrieg tactics of the German war machine. Britain is valiantly standing at bay. China and Japan are locked in total war. Half the world is enveloped in bloody conflict, and incredibly, the United States of America is still asleep. Our giant chamber of imagination opens at 7:55 a.m., December 7th of 1941. It's a peaceful Sunday morning over 70 years ago at a place called Pearl Harbor in the beautiful and serene Hawaiian Islands. America's greatest naval base is awakening this morning with most of the fleet anchored peacefully within the confines of the harbor. Imagine yourself a soldier, a sailor, an airman, and you're expecting to be able to have a pleasant, easy Sunday. Maybe you're going on a picnic. Maybe you're going to just tidy up your barracks or your little bit of space on shipboard, take care of business. You had no idea what was coming. The Imperial Japanese Navy approaches and launches 183. That's right, 183 fighters and bombers from Japan's first air fleet toward Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field. So confident of total surprise are the attackers that as they approach the island, the coded signal indicating a totally successful surprise raid is flashed back to the carrier task force before the first bomb falls. Tora! 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 Tiger! 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 A single remote radar station had spotted the incoming raiders but mistook them for a flight of B-17s due in from the mainland. The B-17s arrive and, like America itself, find themselves in the middle of a war that had not been declared. This is Tora, 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 the surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. We've taken you back to that fateful morning of December 7th, 1941. The attack from the Japanese aircraft carriers Akagi, Akaga, Hiryu, Soryu, and two new carriers, the Shogaku and Suigaku, lasts an hour and 45 minutes. And you can just imagine what it must have been like with 183 Zeros, Kate torpedo bombers like the one you see in front of you right now, and Val dive bombers diving down on Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field and all over the island of Oahu. When the first bombs began to fall, Army Air Corps pilots Kenneth Taylor and George Welch were just returning from a night on the town. These brave pilots raced to their P-40 Warhawks, which were fueled and armed with 30 caliber ammunition for aerial combat practice, and found themselves in the middle of the real thing. The two second lieutenants caught up with the Japanese at Iwa, a Marine base and auxiliary field close to Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field. After shooting down two Japanese Val dive bombers, Taylor and Welch ran out of ammunition, landed at Wheeler Field near the center of the island. There, Taylor and Welch reloaded with 30 and 50 caliber ammo and took off to fight again. These two brave pilots are credited with downing a total of 6 Japanese warplanes before their own Curtiss P-40 Warhawks were disabled. Both pilots received the Distinguished Service Cross for their actions that infamous day. You see, the Zero simulated the strafing runs that were so deadly on December 7th of 1941. Tora, Tora, Tora was the call back to the carrier task force of a totally successful raid. We've taken you back to that faithful day. At Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field adjacent, the devastation was awesome. On the eastern edge of Ford Island, in the center of the harbor, 7 battleships lay at berth. The California, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Tennessee, Arizona, and the Nevada. The Japanese hit first with Kate torpedo bombers, who you see coming in from your left right there. The initial wave of Kates hit the Oklahoma, California, Nevada, West Virginia, and the Utah. Make no mistake, these Kates were equipped with special shallow running torpedoes designed specifically for the attack on Pearl Harbor. You see, the shallow waters of Pearl Harbor would not allow the use of normal, deeper running torpedoes. This took away any claim that the Japanese might have that this was an attack of opportunity. This indeed was a planned attack. Then, ladies and gentlemen and kids, came the Val dive bombers. Armed with 1,700-pound armor-busting projectiles made for 16-inch battleship guns, but converted to aerial bombs, these planes dived down on the Nevada and the Arizona. Anti-aircraft fire that was hastily brought to bear veered the Vals away from the Nevada on the first wave, but the Arizona wasn't that lucky. As the Val dive bombers continued their runs, a bomb from a Kate bomber stabbed the Arizona through her forward magazines and exploded, touching off more than 1 million pounds of gunpowder. A sailor on the Nevada watched the Arizona jump up at least 15 to 20 feet in the water and break into two, forever entrapping 1,200 American servicemen in an underwater tomb. The ship sank in less than 3 minutes. Yes, folks, this is Tora, the surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, and we've taken you back to that fateful day of December 7th, 1941. The Cape torpedo bombers coming in, dropping those special shallow running torpedoes. High overhead, you see the Zeros diving down, dropping their small bombs, and doing strafing runs. This is it. December 7th, 1941. Tora, the surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. At Bellows Field on the northeast coast of the island, more U.S. Army Air Corps pilots were racing to their P-40s. Just then, Japanese Zeros appeared and started strafing runs. One P-40 pilot was killed just as he stepped into his cockpit. 2 other P-40s were drowned down just as they got off the ground. Well, after the war was over, one of the Japanese pilots strafing one of those airfields remembered that he saw, as he was diving down to make a strafing run, a single soldier standing out of his guard shack shooting at the airplanes with his .45 caliber pistol sidearm. He told everyone that that was the bravest man he had ever seen. Typical of what was going on all over the island of Oahu during this surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. That flight of B-17s, 16 of them, coming from the mainland, arrived and are immediately attacked by the Japanese Zero. In the confusion, the B-17s were shot at by friend and foe, and the frightened crews landed wherever they could. Yes, folks, this is the surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. You can just imagine what it must have been like as you watch the smoke, listen to the sounds of the bombs, the air raid sirens, then the machine gun fire, what it must have been like with 183 of these Japanese fighters, bombers, and torpedo planes converging on Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field. It was an absolute nightmare in the making. Tora was the call made back to the carrier task force before the first bomb fell. And you're witnessing a recreation of that tragic event on December 7th of 1941. Listen to the sound of bombs, the air raid sirens, the machine gun fire. Look